Well, let me start off this by saying hello to the wrestling fans, and also say, to quote in parallel to Jerry Seinfeld's show. I don't know if you people have seen that show, but in one of the shows, in one scene, they particularly talks about what day has got a feeling, what weekdays does have a feeling. Is it Mondays? Not Tuesdays, got a feeling, but to me, Tuesdays definitely got a feeling, because that's the day I'm going to watch TNA Impact and Raw on the same night, the day after they aired into WWE, because this was one heck of a day for me. I watched Raw earlier today, and I just watched TNA Impact, and in order to say what show won this night, I got to stick with TNA Impact. Not necessarily that TNA Impact felt bigger or got a bigger rating or increased the rating mostly, but TNA won due to what show took the biggest step, what show absolutely got the most out of their talent, of the atmosphere, of the storylines and everything. And I gotta say, TNA delivered way more than I ever believed they could do. Now, I remember January 4th, WWE delivered Raw. Everyone said, well, that was kind of a regular WWE Raw show, except for Bret Hart being the guest host. And yeah, that's the case. TNA, on the other hand, they really kept on beating on the big drum. They brought in several names, and they really made it feel different. Well, that was a restart that night, and we can say that it was kind of a restart tonight as well, with Raw and Impact going both on Mondays from now on. And to me, it seems like a good move for TNA. They definitely know what to do, and well, I think of the fact that what TNA's been able to do, they've been able to turn Sting heel. They've been able to do something WWE never could. They had Kurt Angle as a heel throughout the entire 2009, and now they've actually been able to make Mr. Anderson, Mr. Kennedy an ultra heel, something WWE was also unable to do. Now you can speculate all you want, you can bash Vince Russo all you want, but if you're gonna trash someone, you also gotta be able to give someone tribute, and I gotta give tribute and I gotta give credit to Vince Russo for being able to book things like this, because he was the one behind Kurt Angle's heel turn, making him being able to be a heel, for instance. That was Vince Russo, and the way they booked wrestling this night, absolutely awesome. Now this Raw tonight was good as well. They delivered several good build-ups for the feuds and for the matches at WrestleMania. WWE knows they don't have to deliver a standout show like TNA had to do in order to gain momentum and interest, because they've got a product that people are interested in. They've got WrestleMania coming up, this huge extravaganza, the biggest pay-per-view of the year in the wrestling industry. They know people are gonna want to see that, but you can still feel from both TNA and WWE that this was a big night where you really wanted to get attention, where you really want to create a big bang, because TNA, they didn't save any powder in the keg, because they started out right away with Flair and AJ Styles Flair somewhat coming out of retirement. I don't know necessarily if what he made was a return to wrestling. I would rather say that what he made was a comeback, or perhaps even a debut as a government mule, because wow, did you ever see how he looked? That's a crimson mask, if you want to get the definition of what a crimson mask is. He was so messed up, was Ric Flair. Wow, so was Hulk Hogan earlier, by the way. WWE, Raw on the way, they didn't save much either. They started out with the ultra hot heel, the biggest match perhaps tied for this year's WrestleMania. I've talked about it in 2 of my Q&A videos. Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker. And you could feel by the way Michael Cole resumed the entire feud leading up to that promo that they really want to grab the viewer and get him into the storyline. They were really interested in grabbing the viewer and make them stay. So they resumed the entire feud. Michael Cole did in a very good way, and that's their try. And they started out hot as well with perhaps the biggest match for WrestleMania, and a promo that was very well delivered. A lot of emotion, a lot of serious, well, seriosity, could you use that word? It was very serious anyways, and they had a purpose with it. They brought emotion to it. They had this battle of who's the bigger guy. They haven't touched each other so far, and I don't remember people want action, they say tag team matches with Shawn Michaels Undertaker. No, I don't say it. No to that. Because why? Simply, Don't have them touch each other before WrestleMania comes. That way you won't know who has got the upper hand. You won't be able to speculate more than of the stipulations and ramifications of the match. You won't know who's the most physically fit. I don't remember if you Triple H, Randy Orton last year, WrestleMania 25, the last show WWE had, they never gave anyone the upper hand because they ended that Raw in the midst of a huge fight between Randy Orton, Legacy, and McMahon and Triple H. That's their way of keeping it neutral back then, and I think they should keep this HBK Undertaker feud neutral as well. No fights and anything. One thing TNA definitely won this night was the atmosphere. It was boiling. It was boiling over. It was so much emotion. There was so much into it, and that makes you as a viewer, me and you, really get into the match. I'm not going to get into whether Ric Flair made wrong in returning to the ring tonight, whether it be as a wrestler or debuting as a government mule. But still, this was a fantastic night. The atmosphere was awesome. The crowd was into it. They loved Hogan. They loved Flair. They loved all the other wrestlers as well. WWE has a problem with that atmosphere. You saw during the end of the show, you really felt how they tried to rally up the crowd. And somewhat I want to blame the crowd, because come on, when you pay $100, several $100, or even perhaps thousands of bucks to sit front row on a wrestling event for the WWE, I don't get these people. They just sit there like, I mean, they sit there like they're in a court hearing, or like in the library. You could really feel and see how they try to rally up the crowd with all these guys coming out with Vince McMahon versus John Cena gauntlet match, how they tried to pound on Cena. Cena kept kicking out. That's what, in a way, to try to build up the crowd, and to some extent they did that, but they didn't succeed nearly as well as they wanted to. Hence, their show will not come through as good as TNA's did, because you really got drawn into it. That's a problem, and I think, well, they need to work with that. And of course, that's a big arena problem, because the bigger the arena get, the harder it is to create that atmosphere. Maybe they should go back to smaller venues, I don't know, but on the other hand, that's WWE's way of doing it. TNA, the smaller venue, easier to get the crowd going. I also thought, yeah, speaking of courts, the fans at WWE's show looking like they're in a court. Jeff Hardy made his comeback during the main event. He made his comeback to TNA. There was a lot of rumors about it. Wow, did he ever have a court haircut? I think that's the way you look in your hair when you've just been to the Supreme Court. Could be that I'm wrong, but I guess it is. Huge Impact. I wondered why they didn't start D'Angelo Dinner's music when he came out to get the ultimate pop for him. Turned out that there was another pop to come for Jeff Hardy. RVD made his debut tonight, Sting heel, and I think the problem people can see with TNA right now is that the guys they focused on tonight on TNA Impact, Hogan, Sting, Flair, Bischoff, Nash, but I think they mainly did that to cause a buzz, to create a big bang. They also hyped AJ Styles Abyss, Desmond Wolfe, D'Angelo Dinero, Beer Money got airtime, Jeff Jarrett, Eric Young got a win over Sean Waltman. That's great. That's great for him. He's really been launched to the top now thanks to the feud with Nash and the band called Six Pack. Awesome. And I think in the long run, Hogan and Flair won't be as active in feuds as they were tonight. That was just a way to create a buzz for the WWE fans, because they are the guys that WWE fans know. And if they hear, well, Flair is going to come out of retirement, they will channel surf at least, if not change to TNA Spike TV for the entire night. So that's mainly why I believe they did what they did, with a lot of the old guys getting attention. And I really hope, come Destination X, I really hope, as good as Holland Waltman is, that they lose that match and don't get a contract with TNA. Still, all in all, I think the winner of this night is TNA. As I said, not necessarily because they win any rating or maximize the rating tonight or get the biggest increase in rating percentage wise, but the way they booked the show, the way they took it to the next level, and the progression that they had, and the emotion, and mainly the atmosphere, the way the crowd loved it, they were into everything. the knockouts, we had new tag team champions. They might have to tone that down and save a little more title matches for the pay-per-view. Bischoff is throwing away a little too many. I know that's this theory that you can have a lot of title matches on TV, but still, you gotta save it for what it means the most. Thank you for watching. Feel free to share your opinions and have a nice day.